Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
We don't have the Kruger Industrial Smoothing clip from Seinfeld? I guess not. People just tuning in have no idea what I'm talking about. Today's guest, including Craig Button, standing by, brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. Christmas is in the air, Rick. At the Bayside, take a big whiff. At the Bayside this holiday season, which means there are deals to be had when staying now until February 29th. A leap year, February 29th. When you stay a minimum of 2 nights, weekends included, the Bayside wants to give you 25% off their best rate. Must call and book directly through the hotel. From everyone at the Bayside, they wish you and your loved ones a joyful holiday season. Call 250-248-8333 to book today. We okay?
We need to get to Craig, but there is some breaking news we should mention before. The Blackhawks have announced they're placing Corey Perry on unconditional waivers and plan to terminate his contract effective immediately. The Blackhawks saying after an internal investigation, the Blackhawks have determined Perry has engaged in conduct that is unacceptable and in violation of both the terms of his standard player's contract and the Blackhawks' internal policies intended to promote professional and safe work environments. As such, Corey Perry has been placed on unconditional waivers, and they'll terminate his contract. So,
wow, that didn't last long. Okay, as we bring in TSN Scouting Director Craig Button. Craig, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I am good, Donnie and Rick. And, certainly when we saw the Corey Perry news last week, the Blackhawks said we'll have no comment about it. Well, I think the comment is pretty clear that whatever actions that Corey Perry engaged in are unacceptable. And I guess now the process will begin, and if there's a grievance, if Corey Perry wants to proceed with a grievance. But, I think it's pretty clear that the Blackhawks are not going to be tolerant based on present-day conditions and what happened in their past. They're just not going to tolerate that from anybody in their organization. And if that's the case, good on them. That's exactly, they're setting an example now in a real positive way.
All sorts of rumors out there on the on social media regarding Corey Perry and the Blackhawks, none of which I believe, and I think, Rick, you're in the same boat. Can you shed any light on this situation at all, Craig?
I can't, and sure, there's you love the way that speculation runs rampant, and not only runs rampant. It's one thing for things to run rampant, but for allegations that people are making about somebody. I mean, if you don't have any type of background for reporting that, then there's no way you should be even coming close to it. But we see that. Social media and media can be a cesspool, and certainly that doesn't excuse whatever the actions were that Corey Perry that led to Corey Perry's unconditional waiver status and termination of his contract. But I just believe stay away from the cesspool. But for certainly the Chicago Blackhawks, and again, it was interesting last week too, because the Blackhawks. Obviously, we're going through a period of investigation, and a lot of people, a transparent organization. Well, you know what? You can be going through a process and be transparent without being able to reveal what's going on at that particular time. So I'm going to tell journalists and media people too that, let the process play out. Just because they didn't report exactly what was going on at that time doesn't mean they're lacking transparency. It may not be able to be transparent until you proceed through the process.
Stay tuned for more on that story. Moving on, speaking of the Blackhawks, Patrick Kane, he signs with the Red Wings. Is he a fit there, Craig? 1-year deal.
On 1-year deal, I think that's a key point there. Yeah, I think he's a fit there. And I think for Patrick Kane, it's not just about, going to the Detroit Red Wings and when he's going to be ready to play. He's an experienced player, a top-notch player when he's been healthy. We know that. And, for the Detroit Red Wings, trying to push their play along, I think that the team gave Steve Yzerman every indication that they would benefit from Patrick Kane. And so you get satisfied on the health, you get satisfied on the rehab, and then you watch how your team's playing, and you say, we're going to pursue Patrick Kane. I thought there was a couple of things Patrick Kane said. He said, I was really impressed with the acumen of head coach Derek Lalonde. And I know Derek is sharp. So you're trying to attract free agents. You're trying to attract players to your organization. There's a great example of a coach, being able to, because he's sharp, being able to attract Patrick Kane, because Patrick Kane's played for good coaches and won. DeBrincat and Patrick Kane had magic in Chicago. That magic gets rekindled, and I think the power play can be a great start for Patrick Kane. And I think that, really when you're going to get the best out of Patrick Kane, because, he's going to try to work himself back into the lineup and playing, will be in the new year. But for the Detroit Red Wings, they're interested in making the playoffs, and they're interested in moving it along. Patrick Kane certainly helps in that regard.
Craig, Andrei Kuzmenko, healthy scratch back-to-back on the weekend. Patrick Lining, Columbus got a healthy scratch. Goudreau was benched. Huberdeau was benched. Hey, coaches are making these players accountable, Craig, and they don't care how much money these players are making.
Well, coaches use the word accountability, standard. Certainly Rick Tocchet has been very clear. We want to play a certain way. We don't want to lower our standard. That doesn't mean we're going to win every game. And if you're not ready to play up to that standard, and coaches don't just wake up in the morning and go, okay, we're gonna healthy scratch you, we're gonna bench you. There's conversations that go on with the talented players and the high end players and the high price players before you get to that point. It's a last resort. It's not a first resort. It's a last resort. But I think that, coaches, you can't call players up and back and down and move them around. You just don't have that flexibility with the salary cap and the roster limitations. So what does a coach have? The coach has the ability to say, you're not playing, or you're going to play less, or you're not dressing. And, that sends a message right through the team that we are not going to lower our standards for anybody. And any top performing organization in any walk of life, make sure that they don't lower the bar. That's what Rick Tocchet is doing. And certainly I can sit here and say, listen, you better find a way to get those players to play. I think coaches try to find a way to get their players to play. And when sometimes something drastic needs to happen to get the attention of the player and to say, okay, maybe I'm not just going to go in the lineup and just trying to participate in the game. You got to get invested in the game. You want to be a successful team, participation isn't good enough. Investment in doing the things that are hard, that give you success, are imperative.
Craig, another coach fired, Dean Evison in Minnesota, 7 straight losses. Hines goes in there. What's wrong with the Wild this year? Why are they off to such a brutal start?
Defensively, they're terrible. Their first win of the season, Gustafsson had the shutout against Florida.
I remember that.
It was annihilation. Florida should have won that game 11-0. And, it never stopped. The penalty kill is terrible. Their defensive play is terrible. And that's under a coach's purview. And that's where you got to do it. Jay Woodcroft couldn't get the defensive effort in Edmonton improved. Listen, this isn't a last coach. DJ Smith's on the hot seat now in Ottawa. Yeah. And they're not the only ones. So you watch, Jay, now you watch Dean. You look at where Ottawa's at. In my view, they're a much better team. The areas that they struggle with are they don't lack talent. They don't lack ability. And you look at the areas where they need to be better, and you look at the areas where they're struggling. That's where coaching comes in. And it's a coach's job to get the team to play to its abilities. Dean wasn't able to do it. Billy Guerin wasn't letting them off the hook. Same thing's close to happening in Ottawa. You can see it clearly unfolding in that regard, and that's what's going to happen.
Ottawa, Florida last night, before we let you go, Craig, Ottawa, Florida last night, I'm not sure if I've ever seen this, but every player on the ice during that brawl gets a 10-minute misconduct. I just said I haven't seen it. Have you seen anything like that before?
I haven't. I think it was what happened, and then the announcement of it, and it wasn't Wes McCauley.
Yeah.
Usually Wes is the one that can entertain us in those moments, right? But you're all getting penalties.
Yeah.
All of you.
It was actually really like, why am I going to mess around? That's how it's going. Let's get it settled. Let's get it over with. It was testy. And, I thought that the Ottawa Senators in that game, the way they started, that's another indictment on the coach. And, when you start off like that and you start games like that and you get pushed around like that, that's not a good look on the coach. And, I just think that the team is much more capable. I thought if they didn't get off to a good start and didn't make some improvements, specifically in defensive areas, the DJ would be in trouble. I don't think there's any question that as a head coach, he's in trouble there.
Craig, thanks for this. We'll talk to you next week.
We will. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bet.